to buy a house, or is it better to rent? Hi, my name is Aisha Rahman. I'm a licensed Islamic financial planner in Malaysia. The answer really depends on your objective, on your family, on the vision that you have for your future. Let me share a story about my very own property mistake. 7 years ago, I rushed into buying our first home because I believed the rumor. And the rumor then was house prices would inflate even more once GST was implemented. So I rushed into submitting my first property purchase. It was a beautiful landed house. However, the location was outside of where my universe is. And the definition of universe here is of where you grew up, of where you envision to send your children to school. I was in my 20s then. My husband and I was excited into submitting our first property purchase, and it went through. And a couple of years later, we got the keys to our house. When we were inspecting our house, it dawned upon us that there is no way we see ourselves raising our children in this area, simply because, number one, there is no Chinese school within the area. Number two, there is no English-speaking tadika in the area. And number three, the worst of it all is that it would take an hour and a half with traffic to get to our office. We made a painful decision there and then. We came to our senses and realized, yes, this property was a mistake, but what could we do? Because when we purchased the house, it was almost double the price of the sub-sale prices within the same area. If I could undo this mistake, first I would really check the sub-sale current area against this newly developed property. When we found out that there was no way we could sell the house, the next best option is to rent out the house. And it was very hard because we got so many calls and so many potential agents who wanted to represent us. Now I know that the question here that we're about to answer and dissect is whether should you buy a house or should you rent. But I hope with my story you are able to also think about the area that you see yourself in, the environment that you want to expose your children to, because it matters. Before you buy a house, you should first check your cash flow. I know everyone envisioned to buy a house, but really, if your salary is 3,000 and you want to buy a property, you can't have your installment half of your salary. That's just too much. If you're buying a sub-sale, you got to prepare 10% down payment. You got to prepare for legal fees. You got to prepare for stamping, right? And that's just on the pre-purchase alone. Once you purchase the property, you got to look into repairing all of the wear and tear of the house. What about renovation, furniture, kitchen cabinet alone? I assure you it can cost up to 50,000, and 50,000 being the bare minimum. You gotta also factor in other expenses, such as if you're living in a condo, you gotta factor in JMB. JMB is separate from your installment. If you live in a landed community, you gotta factor in guard. You gotta factor in other things for security, such as CCTV, alarm, and whatnot. So having said that, buying a property is not so easy. I would suggest that you look into your cash flow first, how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, to factor in all of your existing commitment, and how much room you can make for your upcoming installment. So is renting bad? Let me assure you from my own experience that no, it gives you the freedom and luxury to explore. Personally, my family and I have rented duplex, and when our family grew, we moved to a 2-bedroom apartment, and because our family have expanded, we are now renting a double-story house nearby my office. And this is the reason why I did not rush into buying our next property. I already knew that I was going to build my business first. So similarly with you, what other important goals are floating in your life right now? Which one should take precedence? Which one should be a priority? And calculate the cost involved, whether should you buy a house, should you rent, or do you have another specific goal that is a priority other than tying yourself into a new commitment. What I love about renting is that it has given me the opportunity to see what kind of property I want to go into next. And by renting, it allows me to not worry about wear and tear, about plumbing, about guard, GMB and whatnot, because I only paid a fixed commitment. And the reason why my family and I have decided to continue renting while we build our business is because of our children. Now you see, I've said in my previous webinar, my other videos, my children go to SJKC. And to find good SJKC, it requires you to be an area where it is developed. So where we are at right now, I love it because there is Sekolah Agama, There is music school, there is Kumon, there is swimming class, there is SJKC, and it's also 5 minutes away from my office. So by renting, I am able to hit 6 goals just by staying in this area and just by the intention to rent. So there is no perfect way. If buying a house works for you, if you can afford it, by all means, go ahead. Eventually, we do hope into buying our next property, but it's just not right now. And what's the rush anyway? Because I have other priorities to meet. For those of you who's currently shopping around for your next property, what we could do is that you could get on advisory with us. We could look into your cash flow, and at the same time, I am able to tell you how much financing you could go into with the amount of budget that you have. Don't rush into buying your property, because it's a mistake that's going to tie you down for the next 30 to 35 years maximum. Take your time to shop around, take your time to compare, really analyze the pros and cons of each location, of each property. Factor in all the hidden costs such as renovation, repair works, CCTV and whatnot. And also, don't rush into having a joint name for your financing just because you can't afford to buy the house on an individual name. There are a lot of danger that you may not know about when you have a joint name and a joint SNP. If you're financially capable, you have more than enough surplus, definitely buying a house is something that you should look into. But at the same time, calculate how much commitment is going to go into this property and other unexpected costs, because you don't want to take another personal financing or a markup loan on the property just because you want to factor in everything into the same financing.